Easy now. Papa got things making him
come down. Ooh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. I'ma have to cut you off, like right now. You see, I don't want to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me try the marijuana. I was never you good. The vibe was straight. Showed you a couple of things and they ain't finna change. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your lip.
Welcome to the Seahawks Man to Man podcast, powered by The Athletic. Shout out to the company. My name is Michael Sean Dugar. I'm here with my co-host Christopher Kidd. Make sure you follow us both up on the tweet machine. Follow me while I'm still verified before Elon Musk take that away. Also follow us on YouTube. Seahawks Man to Man is the name of the channel. That's the number 2 man. Chris, talk to him.
What is up, everybody? It's your boy Christopher Kidd. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at CKIDD206 and that's CKid206.
All right, got another midweek episode for you as the Seahawks prepare to go to Arizona to face the Cardinals. As usual, you guys get the drill if you've been here with us. No one covers the Cardinals. So in lieu of having someone break down that matchup, I mean, me and Chris could do it, but who cares? We are bringing on one of our favorite guests on the show. We have Sam Gold on the line. Sam, welcome back to the Seahawks Man to Man podcast. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good, man.
We are good. We are good. We are pleasantly surprised by the first 8 weeks of the season. Did not expect them to be 5-3. Did not expect their defense to be lights out. At least the last 3 weeks. Did not expect Geno to be like a Pro Bowl lock before the bye week. Just tons of surprises, man. Chris, I feel like what else? Did I miss anything that's like jumping out? I caught us off guard.
Tariq Woolen is elite. we thought he'd be okay and still raw, but he is actually elite. Kenneth Walker is the second coming of Le'Veon Bell, Barry Sanders. It's crazy.
Well, the Tariq thing actually doesn't. The speed at which Tariq hit this point surprises me, but not that he hit this point. No one, everyone I talked to after they drafted him was like, he can get to this point. They just didn't think it would happen in year 1. Like week 2, pretty much. Like they thought it would take time. That part. Also, I knew Ken would be good. Ken, you see him 5 touchdowns against Michigan. Okay, kid was crazy. But how are you, Sam?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Yeah, man. I'm gonna echo everything you guys said especially about Tariq Woolen. You don't expect a rookie, and a rookie was he a 5th rounder? You don't expect him to be that good that quickly, and it's the little thing. I expected him to be good in press coverage. I did not expect him to be good in off coverage and sitting in kind of like that zone look with outside leverage and him just being so aggressive to drive on those routes. Like seeing him cover a drag route from across the field is freaking amazing. Like he'll be out leveraged before the snap. They'll have like a 4 or 5 yard lead on him, and then he closes that gap and he's there. It's incredible. And sure, like you can't do that all the time. And he let that touchdown, was it last week or the week before that? I think it was on a drag route. But you don't expect that consistency and that kind of awareness to be able to be that quick to decide and go. Like it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's an example of Chris, should we just start with Tariq then? You think we should start with him?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. Man, Sam brought it up, so we might.
Yeah, go ahead. We could start with Tariq, but I think Sam, that's I wrote about that a little bit too. So there was a play in training camp. I don't know if they made the team site because they kind of cut off the YouTube feed when they go 11 on 11, where Tariq does that, where he comes from right cornerback, follows a crosser all the way across the field to where like Sidney Jones was on his left cornerback. And then picks off, I think, Drew Lock. I forget who he picked off, but he picked it off. And even Pete Carroll after practice was like, I don't think I've ever seen anyone do that. It's like, I need to go watch the film to see how the hell he did that. I mean, Pete wasn't like surprised, but he was just like, I've had a lot of corners. I don't think I've seen somebody do that. And then he gets beat on that in the Falcons game. I forget the receiver's name, but the guy comes all the way across, catches a really good ball by Mariota. He's number 7.
Zacchaeus, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
the keys or
but great
something.
catch, great throw. So he gets beat on it, and then the very next week, the Lions run something very similar to T.J. Hawkinson, and then Tariq's like, "Screw this, I'm not getting beat. I've covered this route in practice before." Zoom, and then it's a pick six, and yeah, like Sam was saying, to do that because the offensive player like Samson is running away from Tariq's leverage.
Mm,
So like he's at all the disadvantage in the world. To even get there is crazy. To get there and get your hand on the ball is crazier. To get there and catch it, it's
yeah.
crazy. Then the score means that's like some Deion Sanders shit. So yeah, no, that's really impressive, man. What else has stood out to you, Sam, when you've watched Tariq on tape this year?
Yeah. For me, it's so you have the athletics parts, right? You have his ability to be able to flip his hips and go from like a bail technique to coming back on like a comeback or a hitch route. You have the footwork. And it's not as simple as we knew he's fast. It's the athleticism to fully drop them hips, turn his body, and then step and go. And he does it so quickly and so fluidly that it takes the he's athletic comment or like he's an elite athlete comment like to me to the next level because there's a lot of elite athletes, but there's not a lot of guys that have elite deep speed, elite turning speed. It's all those metrics that we talk about at the combine, like the three cone, the 10-yard split. It's all those metrics just packaged into like one dude that can do that. And I think he's playing extremely well right now. And I mentioned this in my video on him that there are some things that I think he can improve on in terms of his route recognition, kind of just understanding how offenses will attack like his leverage and his zones. It's stuff like that but that's expected. It's expected of a guy coming from, like a college system to coming to an NFL system to understanding how different offenses will scheme design to just target one player. And like Kyle Shanahan's like he's always been great about this, where he'll just literally point at a dude and on the other team's like film and practice and say, we're gonna target this guy and he's gonna have the worst game like in his entire career this week. And they'll literally design 3 or 4 plays against that one dude taking advantage of his traits. And I've heard that from multiple like former players talk about it. It's those type of things that in college you just don't have time to do that because you're basically just showing, all right, let's teach a scheme, let's make sure that they're sound and let's try to make plays, let's try to be fast. But it's that level of attention that is going to take his game to the next level. Uh, and straight up, I mean, I think he's on the right trajectory. I think he's looking really good for this.
And it does appear that when it's all said and done, he will win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Just the way he's playing, he's getting interceptions, he has a touchdown, he has a field goal that's been blocked. He's doing everything. And I'm going to ask you this, but what do you think his ceiling is? How good can this guy be? Because everything he's doing now, some dudes aren't doing until their third and fourth year, and he's doing it
Yeah.
as a rookie. And there are plays where he even said it after a game where he said, I'm just out there, like sometimes I know what I'm doing, sometimes I don't.
Mm.
And even on the film, it doesn't even look like he doesn't know what he's doing. That's how good he appears. So what is his ceiling, you think?
Yeah, it's a really good question. The first comment I'm going to make is that Sauce Gardner is putting up a really good fight, and I think he's
Yes.
currently
Yeah,
leading like the
absolutely.
defensive. I don't see Kayvon Thibodeau winning it, but I think because of his name, I think like statistically how he compares to other defensive ends and pass rushers. I don't think Thibodeau should win it, but I think he has a good shot just because of his name and just because where he's drafted. Uh, Tariq has the opposite problem where no one knows UTSA. Nobody really follows the Seahawks outside of, specific stuff, and really knows like all their players and stuff like that. And also you have Sauce and the New York appeal. So that obviously gives them advantages in that respect. Going back to your question on his ceiling though, man, that's a really hard question because I mean, he could be like a Champ Bailey type if you're talking like if this is like his rookie season and he just keeps going up, that's like what you're looking at right now. It's not an exaggeration to say that's the type of ceiling he could have because of his physical traits. And I feel like someone who's going to listen to this show is going to be like, he plays nothing like Champ Bailey or something. It's not that. It's just that the perennial all pro type player is what his talent is showing, at least at this exact moment. And that's something that, I mean, shoot, I hope he gets there. This is where I'm not gonna say he's gonna get there because knowing me, I'm gonna jinx it. But that's my hope.
I mean, I'll put it this way. I remember the interception, I think, against, oh man, I'm gonna forget the team. Anyway, they're playing cover 3, and there's no one in his zone, so he just follows the receiver across the field and picks it off. And I'm thinking, if they were in cover 3, like I think they were, he really just did his own thing and got an interception. That's how talented he is. He just makes up on the fly and is like, yeah, no one's in my zone. Let me just follow this guy. Oh, interception, pick 6. Matter of fact, I think it was the Lions, if I'm not mistaken. Was it the Lions, Mike?
Yeah, where he drove on that over.
Yep, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's the play call. That's the
play. Okay,
Yeah, they basically just match that route.
that makes sense then. Okay.
Yeah, because remember last year after the Vikings game, Trey Flowers was like, "Man, we got to figure out how to cover these dig routes. Like either they're gonna figure it out or I'm gonna figure it out." And then Trey never played again. But that's, and then you saw the week 4 of last year. Someone ran a dig route on Sidney Jones and he followed it, but then the Deebo Samuel got the wheel route touchdown.
Yeah, a little miscommunication.
Jamal Adams
on
was
that
turning
one.
him like Jamal Adams turned around like, dude, Sidney, where you at? So you could see in the offseason, they were like, all right, how can we stop these dagger concepts? Well, we can just match the route that it's good coaching. But it took all of getting cooked last year. to kind of figure it out. I'm with you, Sam. I think the race between him and Sauce, though, that'll be really impressive to see. But that just shows you how crazy the draft is sometimes. What pick was Sauce? 4, 3?
Yeah, it's like 4 or something.
Yeah, like one of the top 5 picks, and Tariq was picked 153.
Yeah.
Or like 154 or something like that. It's very similar to that 2011 draft where they found Richard Sherman. And I think Patrick Peterson was a top 10 pick in that class out of LSU. And then Sherman was like pick 150, and they're just neck and neck. I think Sherman's better, but like they were neck and neck there for a little bit. It's kind of crazy. And I don't think you're jinxing it, Sam, with his ceiling, man. I think a lot of people in the building feel the same way. It's just how fast he can get there. Cause I mean, I've even talked to I'm doing a story on how they scouted him and everything. And everyone's just like, I was just like, hey, what's your first impressions of him? It was like, he's 6'4" and can drop his hips. How the hell does that get to the 5th round? And then he runs 4.26 at the combine. It's like, well, how does that get to the 5th round?
And the thing is, he had to fall that far for like even the Seahawks didn't take him in the 3rd or wherever with their other picks. So it's not like we can play. We knew, like we took a swing and it was here. That was straight value. That was as value pick as you get with upside. That there's no risk with a 5th round pick. It's a 5th round pick is you don't even expect them to make the playing field the rookie year. But man, he's starting, he's playing well.
Yeah, it's usually like with the 5th rounders, depending on the position. And obviously, this doesn't apply to like a defensive tackle, but you're thinking kind of special teams with their year 1 impact. Like with Tariq, I'm pretty sure the Seahawks were like, hey, if nothing else, in year 1, he's a gunner on punt. He's a gunner on kickoff, and he'll fly down there and hit somebody. Like that. At worst, that's what he is. And nah, he's out there picking off passes. That's pretty nuts, man. I want to stay with the secondary because they were kind of tight-lipped when they hired Clint Hurt about like what the defense would look like in terms of new stuff. We kind of knew it would be Fangio inspired, but and Clinton had kept saying aggressive, and I think that for everyone, the simplest thing we wanted to see was just less of Brian Monet and Poona Ford in coverage. Let's just stop that, which he has. Credit to Clint there. But now with an 8-game sample, we've seen really what the evolution of the new defense looks like. You talked about this in your video on Tariq, and their new base coverage essentially is not cover 3. Now it's like cover 6. Cover 4 to one side and cover 2. to the other side. What have you made of just when you watch their defense, that being their new base coverage and how it kind of helps their guys perform well?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So from last year to this year, kind of as you just mentioned, there was a noticeable uptick of their playing of cover six, which, as you said, is some people call quarter, half, or some people call it, you have cover two, cover four. You have some people call it cover eight, depending on if you switch the sides on which sides the quarters are on, or the cover four is on, or the cover two is on. Doesn't matter. It's all the same thing, just depending on which side you're going to line up with, weak versus strong. For the purpose of this, let's just say cover six. There was a noticeable uptick from last year to this year of that coverage. And that was basically at the expense of their base cover two. Last year, they ran cover two at something like 20 something percent of the time. This year, their cover two rates are down to like 10%. And to make up that difference, cover six is basically taking that place. I'm a huge fan of cover six, especially when the Rams used it against the Seahawks when Brian Schottenheimer was the offensive coordinator. Cover six destroyed the Seahawks offense back then. What would happen was that you saw Schottenheimer loved shotgun trips to one side and then DK Metcalf by himself on the other. He loved that formation. That was like his bread and butter. Like he lived and breathed in that formation. The problem is that cover six just completely destroys it, because you can put two guys on DK simply by alignment, and then you have the cover four side on the other side, and that basically limits your big plays because you have those two safeties over there over top that quarter side, and it basically annihilated any sort of upside with that play in that formation. Basically, what would happen is that it forced Russell Wilson into taking those honey hole shots up the left sideline between, like a cover two corner. He's like a sideline corner along with that deep half corner. And the thing was that at a certain point, Russ just couldn't hit them, because he had the finger injury or whatever happened to him. We just lost that ability over time to consistently hit that and take that shot. And at a certain point, Russ just stopped looking that direction because he was like, well, shoot, they're playing cover six. I can't hit this. And so therefore I'm going to look to my right. And then what would happen is that on that cover six side, on that cover where you have that cover two side, that interior zone hook curl linebacker right underneath there, he'll start cheating. So he started cheating to the strong side. And then now you have basically an overwhelming mass of defenders there taking on three dudes. And since Russell Wilson isn't going to look for, our check downs, he's not going to look for those plays. And because DK Metcalf ran like 4 routes the entire year, it just completely destroyed our entire game plan. And he did that. The Rams did that over and over and over. And then other teams were like, wait, that actually worked. Let's do that. And they started using it. And so you just saw like this rise of cover six, and it was just like it's inching up. And then all of a sudden you're like, all right, now we have to like call some other plays and whatever. And that pretty much took like a high-powered top 5 offense in the league to like one of the worst offenses in the league in the matter of weeks. And it was Brian Schottenheimer who couldn't adjust to that. It was Russell Wilson who couldn't adjust to that. It was the entire team is basically like, I don't know what to do. They're covering me different, And we always got those comments every single week that are like, teams are covering us different. It's like, we know, so adjust. Anyways, I digress. But basically, you see those coverages change, and you see the proclivity of the NFL moving to like trip sponge formations and trips to a side. And to me, cover six is a natural progression to stopping that. And I think the Seahawks see this, but then also the huge benefit to me is that the Seahawks, outside of Quandre Diggs, like who are their safeties? You see Ryan Neal, who's now playing incredibly well for the past couple weeks, but they don't really have the safeties after Jamal Adams got injured in order to consistently man a cover two side or even consistently play that. So what would happen is that cover six, it takes the pressure off people because then you can start bracketing, and then you have players that aren't responsible for large open areas of the field, and they can just play more aggressively towards those routes, those in-breaking routes that just destroyed them in the past. And to me, cover 6 is the current kind of the solution to that. And it'll be really interesting to see if they keep doing it, like keep going forward for the rest of the season.
Have you been surprised by how Ryan Neal's played then in that regard? Because he's been probably like, what, their fourth best defensive player, making plays all over the place.
I'm shocked. Like it's not that I dislike Ryan Neal or anything like that, but it's he would have those games that were so bad, like in the early in the season or last season, and then to see him play this good, I think it's pretty shocking, and it's pretty awesome how much he's embraced kind of like that underneath role and helping out.
See, this defense, man, you would think as poorly as they played against the Niners, against the Falcons, against the Lions, you would think, man, they got to bring somebody in, which the Seahawks have done in years past where, okay, we got to figure something out. They make a trade, a big free agent pickup. They have done things in the past where they just go out and get someone. This season, they said, no, we're just going to switch up our personnel, make it work. And the last few weeks, it has worked. So my question to you is, how did they do that? How did they realize that, you know what, we do have the guys in the locker room. We don't need to go outside and change the personnel. And will this continue, you think, the rest of the season where these guys are continuing to play well? You mentioned Ryan Neal. What about Kobe Bryant, who comes in on first down and they're playing nickel against, a team that might be with 3 wide receivers, a tight end. He has to make those run fits. So do you see this consistently going throughout the whole season where they're successful as well?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And to me, a big part of the Seahawks transformation over the past, especially over the past few weeks, like we can talk about like the first 4 or 5 weeks that were just god awful, and then we can compare that to these past few weeks. And to me, I think, and I feel like Matty Brown and those other guys are gonna hate me for this comment. I feel like it's an execution thing more than I don't know if they hate me for this, but I think it's more of an execution thing overall than it is purely like, all right, let's change up the scheme beyond that. Like the scheme is obviously different than previous years. And that's been especially with the different run fits, as you said, and they've been using more of that 3-4 base, but they've also used that in the past too. So that's not like this like brand new concept that people are like making up. Like that's been there for a couple years. I think they've used it to a higher percentage now, but I think it's always been there. I think purely from an execution part, that is what is leading to this defense like renaissance. It's players understanding their assignments. It's players relying on other players to understand their assignments. And I think it was you or somebody else that mentioned about Quandre Diggs and how he was like very hesitant to start the season. And then now he's starting to more fly around and make plays and stuff because he can now trust his cornerbacks to be there. He can now trust his linebackers to cover seams and do the right things. As much as we've been hating on Cody Barton for like the past year or so, Cody Barton's playing a lot better than we need to give him credit for that.
Yes.
Him covering seams against the Chargers was awesome. Like him covering seams and stopping those plays up the middle. That's what this defense needs, and they rely on it because they're putting him in this awkward, like weak side position where he's getting exposed. And it's a hard role to play with. And Barton, to his credit, has played as drastically improved at playing that role. It's little things like that just add up, in my opinion. I think a lot of defense, and again, I'm going to get hated for this comment. I think it's about random bits of execution on a week by week basis of how well someone's playing on a specific play and how that overlaps to see these gaps. And to me, I think their overall floor is being raised because everybody is just doing a better job of understanding their role and their assignment and just basically not making the stupid mental mistakes that have occurred, especially in the past and especially earlier this season. And like I watched the Lions game where they gave up like 40 or 50 points or whatever that was. It was an execution problem. Like that was a pure execution problem in terms of on a play-by-play basis. And now you can argue that they should have just done what I suggested, which is play cover one man, like double up Hawkinson and just do that the entire game. And that would have been, I think that's a fair argument. But I think more than anything else, the big plays were just missed tackles here and there. There were a blown seam route that didn't get covered. They were when in zone coverage when an offensive player enters your zone and you're not responsible for it because he goes to a certain direction. Let's say you're that hook curl zone in the middle, and like someone goes through your zone on like an out route. Then you have another route that comes through it. You're pretty much always responsible for picking up that second dude. Like it pretty much guaranteed in any defensive playbook, the second guy that comes through your zone, if you don't cover that guy, that's your fault. And that was the biggest issue, is that a lot of second guys were getting basically free passes through zones when they shouldn't have been. And so we kept seeing that. And that's when you see that Hawkinson big play up the sideline. That's when you just see guys just not carrying routes that they're supposed to. And then now these last few weeks, we see those routes getting covered correctly. We see those plays not getting blown up because they understand the execution part of it. And so to me, I think that's part of it. And also you have the emergence of like a guy like Ryan Neal who's crushing it, who's helping the rest of the team feel confident. And I think there's a level of that certainty that plays into it when you can trust your guys or trust your other teammates. It helps you play faster and better too.
Yeah, there's I was trying to pull it up, see if I could throw it in here. But I was watching the film of the Giants game last night, actually, and I was thinking that there's a play, Saquon Barkley, it's just a well blocked up play, really. And he ends up coming up Tariq sets the edge, so then Saquon has to cut it inside. And it's pretty much just him one-on-one with Quandre running the alley. If Quandre misses, it's a 70-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
You know, like we saw against Taysom Hill, and like we saw with I think Jamal Williams stiff arming Josh Jones in week 4 for a 50-yard touchdown. Yep. Same basic idea that, like, all right, everyone's doing their job. Safety makes the tackle. It's the difference between a 13-yard run and a 70-yard run. You know, that's I wanted to pull it. That thing's not loaded, but that's when you mentioned Sam, the execution thing. That was a play that jumped out to me last night. I almost posted it, but somebody misses a tackle really bad on it. Maybe I'll pull it up. Maybe I'll post it still. But it was one of those. I was like, oh,
yeah,
hey, shit different. They're just tackling. And also there was a play against the Giants as well where they run a similar concept that one of those Hawkinson touchdowns was on, and instead of it being a blown coverage, I think Jordan and Cody just play it right, and then I think Daniel Jones ends up scrambling for like 4 yards to the sideline or something like that. I was like, oh, there you go.
That's it. Yeah, it's
guys just playing better. And you're right. So we do owe Cody some little love here. He was a big part of their game plan with shutting down Justin Herbert.
That
was
insane,
which is a crazy sentence.
I don't know who schemed that up, and I don't know who trusted Cody Barton to do that. But man, props to you. Like, props to that guy. Whoever like stood on that table was like, this is Cody's week. We got him.
Yeah.
Like, whoever said that, like they deserve like a beer or a hug, or I don't even know. They deserve something.
Yeah, you saw the growth week by week. And then I'll go back to the Giants game. He's playing, it's 4th down. The Giants have to score. They're doing a crossing pattern with, I think, a tight end, a wide receiver deep. And the guy goes behind Cody. And earlier in the year, Cody wouldn't feel that. He wouldn't be aware that, okay, there's a guy coming in your zone, slide over to the left to try to make a play on it. And I need to find the story that Mike wrote where he talked about when Cody Barton is targeted, teams are 12 for 12 and like 50-something yards completing passes against him. Now you see Cody against the Giants. He feels it. He keeps moving. The ball's thrown, hands up. He just drops it. Those are things he's getting better, and you mentioned that as well, as the defense as a whole has gotten better. So even though his play might have used other players in different scenarios, when he goes out there, he's still making impact plays. And that's, I think, what I want to hit on is the fact that, his amount of snaps might have gone down, but his impact plays, he almost had a pick right there. I don't know if he would have picked it off for pick 6, but that was just a play that shows the growth of the defense and Cody Barton knowing and being aware of, okay, I know what I'm doing here. This is my first time starting. There's a lot thrown at me, but now he's understanding that. And you saw that on Sunday against the Giants. So that I just wanted to give another shout out. I said that on our podcast on Sunday night, but just want to bring it back to those attention to those listening, because Cody's definitely figuring it out, and he's only going to go up from here for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think it's been interesting. There's certain guys who, I mean, it makes sense when you think about it. Like when they're going backwards in a pedal, like they're really like solid, because they can see it. And there's some guys who are just like with their back turned, they're like, you can tell how comfortable they are. It's very fascinating to see who's who. Because like you mentioned, Sam, like you were like, I thought Tariq would be great in press and man, because he's one of those guys who's comfortable if he has to turn and run. I mean, look at the pick he had on Kyler Murray. That's textbook right there. He had no problem turning his head away from the quarterback and running. And Cody actually seems to be really good in that position. I don't know if I'm surprisingly is the word, but like you see him carrying those seams against the Chargers, just like, yeah, with his back to the quarterback, he seems very comfortable. Whereas I think like someone like Jordan is actually better when those drops where he can see everything.
Yeah, where you can see and drive.
Yeah, when Pete sometimes, or even Clint Hurts says like we got to put our guys in position, that coach speak cliche. That's something that's kind of picked up. Like, some guys are better in that. Like I think Kobe Bryant is one of those guys who's like that when he can see everything.
Yeah,
he plays with, which is probably why he's doing good at nickel.
It's interesting. Like Tariq Woolen, and you remember that pick against Kyler Murray? It was like a comeback up the sideline by like Marquise Brown. The fascinating part about Tariq Woolen's scouting report was that like he was not good at that in college. Like his timing on turning his head and body to anticipate when the ball was coming, that was like a scouting report like weakness. That was like one of the things people were like, he can cover, but he doesn't know where the ball's going. And now he does. That's like terrifying.
It's like funny.
That's terrifying. It's like now he does.
It's so funny you say that, because I remember I went to a Seahawks walkthrough earlier in the year right before training camp started, and I was talking to a reporter about Tariq Woolen, and he was like, yeah, he's just so raw. He doesn't turn his head, things of that nature. And literally, they were doing a play. Defense is not supposed to make a play on it, but you can tell Tariq is out here trying. Tyler Lockett he did like maybe a goal line corner route, and Tariq just stares at him, puts his hands up. He doesn't turn around. And in my head, I'm like, bro, turn around. You get a pick. You are taller. I can see you have the speed because you're right there with him. And then you see the progression.
Yeah.
You talked about the play against the Cardinals where nice little hand on Marquise. Oh, you want to run up the sideline? Okay, cool. I'm going to run with you. Oh, you're looking for the ball? Okay, cool. Let me turn my head and look. Oh, bro, I'm about to go and get this. Those are the things that he's improved on. Just like that. Just knowing and being comfortable. Because it's very scary to run with some dude, put your arm out, turn and trust your instinct and your body and make a play. A lot of dudes can't do that. A lot of guys just run with their hands up, freaking out, don't turn their head. But Tariq, to be able to do that in his rookie season, incredible, especially considering that early on in the year, he wasn't doing that. There are countless times I remember him just, hands up, I'm just going to run with the dude. Bro, turn your head. Yeah. Mike hears me say that all the time at training camp. Dude, turn your head. They don't trust you, Chris. Nah, man, you work on it. There's a damn drill that you guys do where you walk through it. Your quarterback coach or DB coach throws it up to you. You work on turning your head, flipping your hips, and making a play. Nothing's changed. Now it's just the game scenario. So I just wanted to add that little tidbit.
100%.
Yeah, no, he's been very, very impressed. He's also good too, dropping and just driving on stuff too. Something that's like Sam mentioned. Good. I mean, the PBU he had against the Giants is exactly that. Drives on the route, hand clean, just boom, just impressive stuff. Last thing on the D, you and pretty much everyone in Seattle was like, after a few weeks, Sam was like, Darryl Taylor's not playing well. That's weird. And broke it down. And now, DT's playing well. Uchenna's just been rock solid, in this kind of defensive resurgence over the past few weeks. What have you seen from DT and just the pass rush in general, by the way, that leads the league in sacks in the past 3 weeks with 14?
Ooh. Yeah, to me, so you have Uchenna, who that was like one of the best signings of probably the offseason, and he wasn't that expensive either, which was the fascinating part. Uchenna's been one of the Seahawks like best players, if not like top 2, top 3. But he's playing extremely, extremely well. Now, in terms of Darryl Taylor, and this is something that I called him out in my video on him, his approach to his pass rushes were way too steppy. Like he took way too many steps before he even made contact. And I heard people talk about his hand fighting. I heard people talk about he just runs around them or the classic like I'm gonna watch this and I just see him rounding the corner and just like sprinting. I always see him do that. Um, the issue was his approach and the angles he took, especially starting from an outside position. Um, Standing so far outside this year has been an adjustment. And I think he's making that adjustment, but I also think he's being a lot more aggressive about making contact and using his hands, and using his strength. He can be a really good speed to power bull rusher where he gets that one arm. And I remember you posted the link about Daryl Taylor talking about how he likes rushing from outside the right tackle because he likes to use his right hand to push and reach to make that one arm. And if he lands that, that's a really, really good move. The issue is that I didn't see him land that a single time throughout the first like 4 or 5 weeks of the season. It was like he was allergic to touching that right tackle and getting his hand on there like he was told like stay outside. I'm not gonna get beat outside. And then he didn't make an impact. And I think now he's like, all right, I'm gonna actually start doing that. And I'm gonna start. I think to me it's, I don't know if it's like just a misunderstanding or it's just or there's I just can't explain like why like why he was doing what he was doing, but it seemed like he unlearned some of the best parts of his game from last year and just like refused to apply them this year until hopefully more recently.
Yeah, DT stepping up and getting to the quarterback to help Chenna out, man. That's key to this defense turning around, man. Because Chenna was out there by himself as the only dude rushing the passer for like 4 weeks. It was felt bad for the dude. Oh, another dude, by the way, who was comfortable just kind of doing whatever. He covered that wheel route on Saquon Barkley on Sunday. I was like, wait, whoa, that dude is he is talented. Although he did what Chris talking about, put his hands up, like
You
but
don't want to give him a
260
DPI, but you
pounds
also don't know where it's coming.
yeah, he's not super comfortable doing, but he looked very, very, very comfortable compared to his other outside linebacker guys, like in space covering Saquon on a wheel route. I remember the first time they debuted this new defense, and like Alton Robinson ended up covering like Zay Jones up the sideline on like against the Raiders in the preseason, and everybody was like, Mike, what the hell is this new defense where it has Alton Robinson covering Zay Jones up the sideline? Like, we should kill this shit. Sign of things to come. It turned out to be. Let's flip to the other side of the ball to not only the best story of the Seahawks season thus far, but the best, I would argue, the best story of the NFL season, and that's Geno Smith, known on this podcast as King Gene, because when you play that well, you get a nickname, because he is just balling. He's doing everything well. He's reading stuff. He's statistically he's pretty much top 10 in everything that matters. Completion percentage, all the advanced stuff, completion percentage over expectation, EPA numbers, big time throws, the fewest percentage of off target throws, touchdown percentage, small interception percentage. It's just everything. Every time you look at a good QB stat, Geno Smith of the Seahawks is in there. So Sam, question to you is, of all the things that he is doing well, what is surprising you the most when you watch Geno operate the Seahawks offense?
Yeah. So to answer that question, to me, Geno Smith was a guy that I feel like I feel like the common sentiment of him, at least in the previous years, whenever he played for Russell Wilson, whenever he was out with the finger injury or whatever, I think the common sentiment was he can operate a structured offense. He just can't do anything outside of that. I think that was, to me, the most common thing I saw when he played, it was Pittsburgh last year or some of the other games he played.
Pittsburgh, New Orleans, and Jacksonville, and the fourth quarter against the Rams.
Right. It seemed like his ability to operate like a quick game style thing or a standard 5-step drop passing game, those were all usually fine. He didn't play to the level of accuracy he's throwing right now, and he didn't play that, he didn't make those high velocity throws he's killing right now, but he seemed like he could play a very structured offense. No thrills. Let's just keep the game. I'm going to manage it, and that's it. It seemed like that's what he was and what he was good for. So I bring that up because the most shocking thing to me so far has been his ability under pressure, and especially when that structured play breaks down. That is to me the most shocking part of all of this, because that's what takes his game to the next level in terms of his ability to keep the offense on the field. He saved multiple sacks, and his ability to scramble and escape outside the pocket. He's picked up multiple first downs by scrambling for them too. Also, he's also completed a couple of big throws while he's running too. And you got that, what was that? That Saints throw up the sideline that he was, to his left, and he was kind of trying to shuffle that way. You get plays like that that do not make sense for anybody to throw and make, and he's doing them consistently. And it's the unsurprising part is him operating a structured offense. The surprising part is him doing everything outside of that to a very, very high level. And especially how he takes on pressure, especially relieving the two rookie offensive linemen. It's amazing to me how good he is. Like, straight up. Like, I know I feel like we're beating a dead horse anytime we talk about Geno, but he's legitimately a top 5 quarterback right now. Like, it's not even like this isn't even like a hot take. He's a top 5 quarterback right now. The question is, can he maintain that? Who knows? But he's a top 5 quarterback right now. And if he plays like this all season, he's going to make so much money next year. So much.
Chris, yeah, we haven't done this in a little bit. What's the list of guys playing better than Geno? How many people has on it? What, 3? Let's count it out.
Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen.
There's an argument for Tua, actually.
Oh, yeah, Tua. Thank you. So
There's
those 3.
For Tua.
And Jalen Hurts.
Oh, no, Tua's numbers are crazy right now. Like, the games that Tua has started and finished, he's putting up ridiculous numbers. And Jalen Hurts.
And Hurts too. Yeah.
So I would say just 4 guys.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Even the Hurts, even Hurts and Tua are debatable in terms of who's playing better than Geno. Like, it's like, I would say he's if Josh Allen and Mahomes are tier 1, they're all tier 3 or tier 2, and they're sitting there, and I'll take any of them. So he's top 5 at worst, which is I would never have predicted that.
Yeah, a little, maybe I'll call this a behind the scenes nugget, but it was to speak to something you're talking about, Sam, is when I was talking to some of the coaches in the preseason, it was weird because they didn't want to go all in on one guy or the other because there was a competition, which stinks. So some of the best quotes haven't come until now, because they knew that if they spent too much time talking about one guy or the other, how it would sound. Everyone was trained really well on that in camp. It was pretty annoying, but I understood it. Anyway, I remember talking to some members of the coaching staff, and they were saying kind of like you're getting at, Sam, they're like, we know Geno can get to number 1, meaning like the first read in the projection. We know we can call a play. If the guy's open, he'll hit the guy. Fine. They were like, but they're like, he's in year 10. So he's seen everything. He's got it. He can do more than that. So we just want him to do a little more. And you didn't really see a ton of that in the preseason. Prior to that, he was throwing the guys that couldn't catch. And then, all of a sudden, it was just like, oh, yeah, I'm going to just – Geno's throwing pro day throws in games.
Yeah.
That when you're talking about against the Saints, where he's rolling left and hits Noah Fant, it's just up the sideline, over the corner, and just like, come on. Kid does that in pro day, he goes the first round. Both of his touchdowns against the Saints that he throws to Tyler, you hit those throws, you're going to the first round. You're top 10 pick. You hit those on even you hit those against air, let alone in the goddamn triple coverage. No, it's in some of these throws. Chris and I broke down. Well, Chris, we both done a Geno throw breakdown. Already. I think you did the first Saints touchdown to Tyler, and I did last week. I did the one to Noah, against the Chargers. It doesn't get completed because Noah drops it, but it was one of the best balls he's thrown. Just right above the linebacker in front of Nasir Adderley coming down. I was like, come on, man, you're going first round. You make that throw. So I didn't hint to that a little bit, Sam. Do you think he'll keep this up the rest of the year? The thing is,
so the question everyone always asks is like, will he regress to the mean? And the question is like, I don't even know what his mean is. Like I have no idea what his mean is. And so anybody saying he's going to regress to the mean, like straight up point that to me on like on a graph and tell me, because I want to know. Like, I have no idea what that means. I conceivably, I think he can, I think he can keep it up. And that the thing is that what he's doing right now isn't like some like absurd, like RG3 rookie season. A big part of his game was the RPO, right? It was the RPO, and then you have the play action bootleg rollout where the run game was very strong, and then they bootlegged and they kept hitting like Pierre Garçon for uh a bunch of yards and stuff like that. That was like their plays, and the minute like that entire offense kind of got shut down by whatever, like he came back to the reality of that he just wasn't really a good pocket passer, and he just couldn't do basic like 3-step drops. It was awful. Like it made watching Washington for years, it made it so painful. And the thing is, Geno is he's not doing something on like some like a weird concept or weird play. He's doing it on every play. Like you take away one type of play, he'll just do it on the other play. So I don't even know what the regression to mean is. Like, will he be top 5 forever? Maybe not, but top 10, yeah, I can see it. Like he's shoot, I don't know. Yeah, I can see it. I think he's playing extremely, extremely well.
Yeah, no, man. I wrote about that this morning on the Athletic, Tuesday morning on the Athletic. Just it doesn't feel like a fluke. Staying with the offense here. It's kind of funny. I gotta admit. Look at the numbers. You look at how the offense looks. You look at them going shotgun on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, and calling a bunch of plays and calling a bunch of pass plays. They're kind of letting Geno cook.
Yeah.
Here, really, this is a pass heavy offense. Sam, I'm sure you've seen that same kind of thing when you look at the film. What do you make of Pete and Shane having a pass first offense? Pretty much right after losing Russell Wilson.
Yeah, it's really funny because like their neutral throwing percents, and like I was reading some stats on that, and it's like the Seahawks are like top 5 in that. Like they throw a lot more than they really should in terms of like what you expect for, especially for like a Pete Carroll above expectation type throwing system or like running system. They throw a lot, and I think it's great. Like I'm 100% here for it. Yeah, it's from a play calling perspective, it's the little things that you couldn't really do with Russell Wilson that you can do with Geno, because he can hit the dagger concept. He can throw it over the middle between 5 and 15 yards that Russell Wilson just is allergic to. He just can't do it. Russell Wilson can hit the seam 25 yards down the field in the middle, sure, but he can't hit like a 12-yard like in route. It's stuff like that that makes me very happy and very like confident going forward that, okay, if he even continues to this point or even regresses to like a top 10 guy at like, which is where at worst I see him for the rest of the season, I think I'm kind of now on team keep Geno, and and spend all your picks on defense and just roll, man. Just like keep going. I'm here for it.
I want to look at the running back situation because unfortunately Rashad Penny goes down with the injury that ends this season. But the Seahawks draft Ken Walker III, and I remember having you on, and we had you on in May, and you liked the pick. You didn't love it. You thought they could probably get more value from someone else in the draft class. Since then, has that position changed for you now that you've seen what Ken Walker can do? Or you're like, no, Chris, they still could have gotten such and such here or there, even though Ken Walker is balling out?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And in terms of playing above, I think he's playing above my expectations, but I always had high expectations for him because he was my number 1 running back in the class. It was for Ken Walker. It was never about me disliking the player. It was about disliking the pick. Ken Walker was always my number 1 running back. He was always a guy that I thought should go in the early to mid second. And he was always a guy that I knew he was one of the best pure talented runners in the entire class. So to me, it's not shocking that he's playing very well. It's surprising that he's playing this well. Like to play with one of the highest like rush yards over expected. Right now I just looked this up this morning. He has a 1.8 rush yards over expected, and his offensive line, which is hilarious, is not blocking as well on his runs. and at least compared to like Rashad Penny. Rashad Penny had beautifully blocked lanes and he chunked more yards for them, but not to the level that Ken Walker's doing. Like Ken Walker is taking that to like an extreme. And I don't think my opinion and the process of the opinion has changed. I still don't think I would have taken Ken Walker with that pick. However, he's still playing extremely well, and I still really like the dude, and I love his play style. So it's interesting. Like I think even the guy that I pointed to, I think he got injured in like week 1 or week 2. And so I think it was Minnesota's cornerback that they took like literally like the pick after or something like that. And man, I'm gonna hate myself for forgetting what this dude's name is. Let's look it up really quickly.
Who did go around that? I know Kyler Gordon went to the Bears around that time.
It was Andrew Booth. Was
the kid from Clemson?
Yeah, Clemson corner that I was like, Seahawks need cornerbacks. And guess what? They got 2 cornerbacks later in the draft that actually worked out. So it's the process of the pick was not something that was ideal in my opinion, and I'll stand by that. But man, the pick is playing really well. I really like that. Like I'm not gonna. I'll gladly like take a figurative L on that one. Sure, I don't like it. Doesn't bother me because I think the process is just what I just didn't really like at the time.
The reason I have Ken Walker as the headline is because that's who he reminds me of when he's running the ball and bouncing around, trying to find a hole. I mean, we saw it last Sunday. Yeah, exactly. And it's cool to see. So I would ask you, who do you compare him to? Or is there someone that you see that, oh, I like his style and that's what he's doing, or is he doing his own thing?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this time of the year, I just forget whoever I potentially compare them to over the offseason. So I'm just like, I need to think about like who he could potentially be. To me, there is that Le'Veon Bell level of patience that I just love. Like, I broke this down in my video on him. It was a counter GT run to the left out of shotgun. And this is against the Chargers, and this was like opening drive, and Ken Walker took it for 15 yards. And to anybody who just casually watched that, you see a giant hole to the left, he just took it, there you go, he got 15 yards. But he set that up. He set that hole up by being patient, by stepping and pressing inside, by allowing the defense to make mistakes, which is what Bell has always done or always did do, in order to then create outside of that. And he has the ability to press that offensive line and create those holes and help himself create more yards than basically what's out there. And to me, that's like his superpower, is that not only is he like really fast dude that's elusive in space, it's that he has that natural feel for how a defense would potentially defend the run. And he finds the guy, he targets them, he steps, he kind of does this little shifty squat his lower half move, and then he bursts the other direction. It's great. He's done it multiple times this season. It's been awesome. But yeah, I mean, I think the Le'Veon Bell patience is there, and that's something that I'm like 100% here for.
I think we all are.
Yeah.
My last one on the offense, it's going to sting a little bit because you were high on this wide receiver and his injuries, them trying to implement him in the game, and there's an explosive play, and then there's a penalty, and they're like, oh, it's on number 1. D. Eskridge.
Yeah, God, he's bad.
At this point, he's getting more reps, which is great to see. He's getting more reps, and that's awesome. But the impact is still not there. Hell, we saw the dude returning kicks, doing kickoff. Like, they're trying to get an upstart with him, and it's, for whatever reason, it's just not happening. Has the ship sailed, or if you were the offensive coordinator or just had some personnel decisions to make, how would you approach trying to use D. Eskridge moving forward?
Yeah. And so for me, it was D. Eskridge's upside and his speed. And I thought he would be a good kind of underneath replacement for Lockett as he was kind of learning the nuances of the deeper routes from a guy like Lockett as Lockett ages. That was my hope for Eskridge. I expected some screens. I expected some end arounds. I expected some underneath plays that would get him the ball, get him in space, and allow him to use his speed. Marquise Goodwin has been that guy. Marquise Goodwin is taking all those snaps, and he is, to his credit, he is killing it in that regard. And Eskridge has not done anything, in my opinion, to deserve those snaps back. And I feel bad saying that because like I want to like him. You see the talent when he's out there, but you also see just like you just see this lack of you see this consistent lack in inability to consistently make plays. That it's something that I don't think a lot of us expected based on his film coming out of college. It just feels like he hasn't really it feels like he hasn't really done anything. There's been a couple plays that I think he should have gotten. I broke these down in my video. I think it was on DK Metcalf versus Jeff Okudah, where there was a play where D. Eskridge should have gotten the ball for like a 20+ yard gain on a corner route. There's been 2 of those that I've seen over the past that week and the next week after, where Geno has a spot concept. I think it was on the left side, where DK sits as that spot route sitting there. It's like a 6 yard in route or sorry, 6 yard like hitch route over the on the left, like by like the left hash mark. You have Eskridge running a corner route where he uses kind of DK as a little bit of a pick. And then you have like a tight end, like a Will Dissly or a Noah Fant, kind of just taking that out route. And this spot route is great to find space between zones because Eskridge would theoretically pull that underneath cornerback out of the way along with that out route. He'll pull that deep corner out of the way. And that usually that linebacker over there will see Eskridge running and you'll try to match it. And that's what opens up that little hole right there, usually in zone defenses. Those 2 plays that I mentioned, DK was covered perfectly. He should not have gotten the ball. But Eskridge was wide open, hand up, like he's out there, and a reasonable pass out there to the left would have given him 2 20+ yard plays, and we would have been like, all right, Eskridge has made a couple plays. Outside of those 2 plays, I have not seen Eskridge be that wide open and that basically to that point, he is not creating for himself against any type of coverage that makes you think, oh, he deserves the ball more. He's not beating man coverage. He's not beating zone coverage. He's not doing that much on his screen passes. Like there's not much in terms of what he's offering to the Seahawks offense that can't be replaced by somebody else. And that to me is extremely concerning as a second year player and as a former second rounder. Like he's not at all like, it wouldn't shock me if next year he's cut, which is unfortunate to say.
I think that this regime will getting rid of early picks is tough. You know?
Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean like this summer. I meant like the following, like after his 3rd year. I don't see him. Wait, what year are we in? 20? He was drafted 2021.
Yeah, he's a year 2 guy.
They
just tend to hang on to guys they've made some, like, I mean, they're still, LJ has been relatively unproductive statistically, still around.
Fair. All right, fair. Good point.
They believed in Rashad for so long. And boy, did that pay off.
Yeah, seriously.
Sucks he keeps getting hurt, man. That's really. I do have a thought on D, and it sounds really bad based on what happened the last time they tried this. I do think him in the backfield is where he
so bad.
It was really bad. And it wasn't even like it was a bad play. He just dropped the ball, knows. But I know that's something that
that's the worst part of it.
It was really bad. But I do think that's where he's comfortable. To remember, he's a guy who was a running back in high school, recruited as a running back, played running back before he was moved to receiver, and then he was moved to corner, and then moved back to receiver. So he's actually shifted around a lot. I think because he's got a strong upper body too. He's not like really wiry, like Marquise, for example, or like T. Rich, or like some of those other slot guys they've had. When Philip Dorsett, even like D's kind of built upstairs, like he is. Kind of reminds me of Doug in that way. He's sturdy too. Like so I think that's what I saw Shane Waldron's vision with the toss that they ran to him. It's like you just got to catch the ball. But I don't like them getting him super horizontal though. That does not seem to. I don't really think they have anyone who's like really good at that other than Ken. And Ken's the only guy who, like, you get him horizontal on some sweeps and stuff, it seemed like he would make it work. Everyone else doesn't seem like they can cut. super well. That's my only suggestion there. Also, or you can just throw it to him deep. I don't think has DA got a deep ball since he's been
I
here?
don't think he's gotten a deep
No, he
target.
hasn't. The ones that Sam were talking about were his potentials there, and that didn't
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, like and
And
he
you-
is fast, very
And you
fast.
can even argue those were scheme designed corner routes that he didn't really do anything besides run them. So there's that argument too, which is not a good argument.
Yeah, it's the usage of him very interesting. I do think it's one of those things too where like he hasn't like told me this or anything, but I've talked to enough young guys about this. When you're not doing the thing that you like, it just kind of throws off everything when you when you get opportunities to do the thing you like. You see that with linemen sometimes. That's my theory with Daryl Taylor too earlier in the year. Is like, man, I'm out here setting edges and shit. All right, now it's third down, and then the pass rush stuff is just not there, right? And then now he doesn't have those edge rush responsibilities as much as on early downs. Boom, comes to life as a guy. Yeah, same thing with I think of how they were having their three technique. I guess it would be four techniques, like two gapping and stuff at the beginning of the year. So Puna's not playing super well, as an example. They start letting him just shoot gaps. Boom, starts playing well. Like when you get to play free a little bit, do what you're more comfortable with, you're more likely to start turning up. I think they had D earlier in the year, 13 personnel just blocking and shit, taking on safeties,
Yeah.
setting edges on tosses. And while that's your job, do it. Sometimes give me a little something. Give me a little play that I'm comfortable with, and then ask me to do the dirty work. And not saying it should work like that, but I mean these guys are human beings at the end of the day. If you ask me to do the shit I don't like, you give me the one play that I do out of like 50, 40 snaps in 2 games, and I don't come through. Like, I do think that's a part of the game I get, which is probably why Shane was like, fuck it, man. I'm about to just hand it to you on a toss.
Yeah.
Get busy. And then he drops it.
So I guess to that point, I guess like what do you think Eskridge is like? Like he's like, all right, I love a post route. Let me run a post. I'll do everything else. Like, is that his play? Like, what is his play?
I do think that he'd be better used down the field a little bit, instead of like all this horizontal stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
a lot of horizontal.
Yeah, you saw his college. He wasn't a gadget guy. He wasn't
No.
Percy Harvin in college. He was getting slants and taking them to the house. He looked more like
Yeah.
OBJ than he did Percy in that regard. Like he would just take a little quick curl, make a guy miss, and then he was gone. It was a lot of getting him in space, but not like getting him in space like you would a Robert Woods, So I think that's because you need to be able to when you're a jet sweep guy, you have to be able to eventually cut up. And usually you need to make someone miss to do that. It's not just being fast, which is why they don't jet sweep it to DK, because he's not just going to cut around.
Yeah.
The edge. Same thing. That's my theory with Tyler Lockett as well. All these guys are good straight line runners, whereas someone like Ken Marshawn, by the way, is my Ken comp. By the way, the way the jump cuts is like very Marshawn. Marshawn has a really famous one where he jukes the shit out of Ray Lewis to clinch a game in like 2012 or 11 or something. But anyway, that would be my thing with D's. Get him going vertically more. And less of this gadgety shit. He's not a gadget guy, that's my theory, at least. Not saying to cure everything, but I do having talked to the guys and watched film, like have that combination of both. It is fascinating how often you see that like impact players. It's really true with linemen a lot of the time too, particularly with O linemen. It's like that's why none of O linemen don't like shit like the air raid. It's like, come on, coach, you got me going backwards 40 snaps. Please just give me duo just a couple times. Please, give me something, give me power like on one drive, please. So I'm not backpedaling against 250-pound strong ass dudes like Frank Clark or, Myles Garrett, TJ Watts and shit. So that's one thought. And I'd say to cure everything. But I mean, when you're wide receiver 4 anyway, you don't get a lot of targets. So it's not going to help. But I'm a D truther now. So there we go.
I mean, where are the snaps going to come from? Because he gets 20 to 30 snaps a game. And so the question is that when the Seahawks go into like a 12 grouping with like Noah Fant and Disley on the field, or you sub in Parkinson there, then you almost always play Lockett and DK. And then sometimes when they go to 13, which they pull all 3 tight ends on the field, they'll sometimes have Marquise Goodwin in there. Like he'll be that extra dude. And so it's like, at what point are you throwing in I feel like you're only throwing in Eskridge on majority of the time. It's like an 11 personnel thing with only one tight end. And then it's Eskridge is just taking snaps from Goodwin or somebody else. So it's like, at what plays are you going to use? And it has to be more in their kind of their traditional drop back games. And maybe at that point, maybe you can use Eskridge to blow off for, on post routes or maybe you just run like a post wheel or something with Eskridge running that post and Lockett running the wheel behind him or something. I think there are probably creative ways to get him into like those type of routes. It's just interesting that it's just like, I think it's probably so low on their priority list, given that they have a DK, that they have a Lockett, that
Right,
K9
yeah.
can just bust runs, that like that Geno can scramble himself. Like it seems like so low on the priority list that there's not really a quote unquote need, but maybe eventually there will be.
Yeah, I think what it'll probably happen is, and David Moore showed us a little bit of this. Like when you're the third guy or even the fourth guy, you just got to catch the few opportunities you get.
Yeah.
And if you make a big play out of them, you'll have enough highlight reel enough of a highlight reel to get paid somewhere else. The Panthers didn't cash him out, but it's because he was catching game winners every like 4 weeks. It was like, shit, we'll take a chance on this David Moore guy.
Exactly.
He didn't get a lot of targets. His career high in targets, in catches, was 35 his final year, and he only hit that because if you guys remember in the final game of the year, regular season game. Yeah, he had an incentive to hit, and I think it was Austin Davis who told Rush just give him like a pop pass or something like that, so he could hit the bonus in like week 17 or something like that, and that was to get like past 35. So you don't get a lot of action. That's like 2 targets a week or 2 catches a week. As wide receiver 3 or 4. But yes, I think you guys are right, Sam. You're right too. Like when you got DK and Tyler and Ken. Don't really need to give the ball to anybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't. You're going to score. They're the 4th highest scoring offense in the league at 26 points, 4th or 5th or something like that. They're a top 5 scoring offense. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's for sure. We got anything else before we let Sam get out of here, Chris?
Man, we thank you for chopping it up with us, man. We really appreciate your time. It's always fun talking Seahawks stuff with you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thanks for having me on. This was awesome. I had a great time.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Oh, you got it, Chris? You did the outro?
You got it.
All right. Thank you.
All right, I got it. This is your Seahawks Man podcast. I'm Chris Kidd. I'm Mike Dugar. I'll see you guys later. I'm out.